Hello, everybody. I'm sitting down with Melissa Flores, and we're going to be talking about her indie series Radiant Pink and The Dead Lucky. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. And I know that we had a little bit of a hard time getting this scheduled because you were doing a lot of traveling recently. Is that correct?
I was on a road trip to promote Free Comic Book Day in Texas.
And Texas is exactly what I heard because I saw that you were introduced to our state staple, Buc-ee's. What was that?
Yes, I am obsessed. Why is it only in Texas? I don't understand.
Oh, it's expanding out all across the South. I think that there's some in Tennessee now, Oklahoma for sure. It's slowly but surely, we're spreading our scourge all across the United States.
I mean, I spent way too much money, but like those brisket sandwiches, like I had a brisket and egg taco at Buc-ee's, and we were on our way to a barbecue place that was supposed to be really amazing. And the brisket was dry there.
I know. It's crazy. Buc-ee's actually has some of the best barbecue in Texas, which is ridiculous. Gas station culture is something that I've always tried to explain to out-of-towners, and that because Texas is larger than a lot of countries, road trips are very common. We don't say, "Are you there yet?" We say, "Are you out of Texas yet?" So all of our big gas stations, that's our thing.
It's amazing, and I had so much fun, and I'm so sad that it's so far away.
And you had the beaver nuggets, right?
Yes.
Good.
I actually bought 3 bags, one for everybody that was watching my dog and one for myself. So
I'm glad that you got the right choice. Well, let's hop into your work. So you are really well known for being everything in the Power Rangers brand. You did a lot of production. You've done voice acting. You've done directing. So how did you get involved with Tokusatsu in general?
I got a job. I mean, I was an assistant for development and FX, HBO, a bunch of different places, and then I kind of just burnt out on that. So I went to work for Saban Capital Group as an executive assistant because it paid so much better and the benefits were better. And it really was well taken care of there. Had an amazing boss. I just after 3 years was very bored of the work. And so I asked, I told the general counsel of that company that I was planning on looking to get back in the entertainment industry because that was always my true love. I was always writing on the side and trying to make stuff happen there. And she's like, well, I think we actually might have a job for you. And it turns out that Mr. Saban had just bought back Power Rangers from Disney, and he had started a company called Saban Brands, and so he had Power Rangers and he had Paul Frank, and he was planning on acquiring more brands and create a new media company with those and relaunch Power Rangers. And so I interviewed with the VP at the time, Brian Casatini, and I came on as a coordinator, and then within a year I was a manager, and I kind of worked my way up to director, and I just kind of never left after that.
Did you have experience with anything Tokusatsu, or was it just like a trial by fire once you hopped in?
I did not. I mean, I've always been like a media junkie, I've always been into like sci-fi, superhero and all that stuff, but Power Rangers was just a little too young for me when I was growing up. I was like a Saved by the Bell kid. And so, but I always remember looking at it and thinking it was fun and it was cool. I remember thinking Kimberly was so pretty and so was Trini.
Same.
But I never really paid that much attention other than knowing that, obviously you had to know what Power Rangers was at the time. But like I was one of those people that was just like, oh, Power Rangers is still a thing? I had no idea. Like I spent 6 months just immersing myself in Power Rangers and putting together this Bible. And by the time I finished that, I was obsessed. Like I really just became such a fan of Power Rangers in general, of the brand, of what it meant, of the diversity, of the inclusion of the team, like everything about Power Rangers. Like this is really special, and I'm really glad I'm a part of it. And so I remember Brittany Pirtle, who was Samurai Yellow. I remember one time backstage, she asked me, she's like, hey, do you like Power Rangers? Because this is your whole job. And it wasn't at the time. Like at the time I was doing a bunch of other stuff as well as Power Rangers. And then because as the brand and the company grew, my job split up, and then I became only focused on Power Rangers. But I remember telling her, it's like, you kind of have to love it to do what I do. Because you're doing everything about Power Rangers. And there was a beautiful, an incredible team. It was never just me. Like, Edgar worked in product, and Trini, and like Jason Bischoff and Brian Cassini and Paul Strickland, and all these amazing people and our marketing people like Margot Rosen, like all these different people who worked in different departments, who worked together to do everything that we did. But I did truly love what we were able to do. Beyond the live action series, we got to do video games. We got to do a movie. We got to do the comic books. We got to do live tours. Like, there was stuff that we got to do that I'd never done before. So it was quite a special job for me because no day was the same. I like, as long as Power Rangers, there was a Power Ranger story that was like a little older, I got to be a part of it, and that was very cool. Like, we did Meow Rangers, which was about cats. Like, it was crazy. It was so fun. Every day was different, and I'm still really proud of the time that we had at Saban Brands.
And you ended up writing the Power Rangers comic for a good while. Is that correct?
I'm still am.
Oh, you still are.
I still am.
I'm gonna be entirely honest. I've only read up to Shattered Grid. I keep hearing that it is phenomenal afterwards, but
How dare you? This is over.
I'm sorry.
We're done.
I'm so sorry because Kyle reached out because he saw one of my videos and he's like, hey, if you want to do an interview, I'm like, I keep hearing the Power Rangers is great. And frankly, it's interesting because I grew up with it when I was a kid. I watched the original Mighty Morphin, and then I aged out of it. I never kept going. I was one of those people who were like, oh, Power Rangers is still going. And then I read his run, and it made me realize, like, oh, this is such an interesting concept. And when done for an older audience, there's so much untapped potential. And it's always been at the top of my backlog to to catch up.
Yeah, it was amazing because Kyle, that's how I met Kyle. So Kyle came on board as the writer for Power Rangers when I was an executive. And so I was kind of the one that was talking, along with Edgar and a couple of other people, talking to Boom Studios and Daphne, the editor. And so that's how I got to know Kyle. And so I was there, like, literally from the first pitch, developing the series. And so and then it went on to Ryan Parrott and Matt Groom and Margaret Benny and like all these other amazing writers and artists. And when I left Hasbro, who had been sold to Power Rangers, had been sold to Hasbro at that time, I decided I was going to take a shot at writing, and Kyle was one of the first people I called, and that's how I got the Dead Lucky. I pitched him the Dead Lucky, and he pitched it to Image, and then I sent issue 1 of the Dead Lucky to Daphne because I really respect Daphne. She's an amazing talent, one of the best editors in the business. And I was like, hey, what do you think? And it was just kind of perfect timing because she's like, oh my God, this is great. We need a new writer for Power Rangers. At the time, they had gone through 100 plus issues. They just finished issue 100 with Ryan, and Ryan was stepping off the book to do other stuff. And Matt Groom had come on for about 5 issues. And she's like, we need somebody to close this out. And would you consider doing it? And so it was kind of like a full circle kind of thing. I thought I was done with Power Rangers, and they brought me back. And so we closed out Power Rangers, Many More from Power Rangers, the book, and then we relaunched Power Rangers Prime, which is a brand new kind of like ultimate style Power Rangers book. And so it's a brand new cast, it's brand new canon, everything's brand new team. And we're at issue 6 now. I think it was just released, and we had a little special for Free Comics Books Day. So it's been wild. I can't believe I'm still, like, 2 years later, still doing the book.
Every time they thought you were out. I
was just meant to do 10 issues and close it out, but thankfully, Boom likes me and likes what I bring to the book, and hopefully the fans do too. And so I've been very lucky.
Well, having a lot of experience in multiple mediums, what is it about comic books specifically that draws you to the art form?
The timeline is amazing, right? You can think of something in 3 months, have a book. Also, the budget. Like, there's no money in comics.
Ain't that the truth?
But as a writer, you're not sitting there thinking about, oh man, like, we can never get this location. We don't have the budget for the CGI. You don't think about, like, oh shoot, like, we can only have so many featured cast members, or we don't have, like, you don't have to think about budget. You don't have to think about location. You're only limited to your imagination and the imagination of the artist that's drawing the book with you. And so I think that's really special. I think there's also a lot more appetite for diversity in comics.
I definitely want to talk more about that.
Yeah, that it's harder to get for a television show that costs millions of dollars to produce, where you're trying to, in a really, really cluttered market where you're trying to get as many eyeballs as possible, and just those eyeballs aren't attainable anymore. And the profit margins are so tiny. Like it's a different business. And I think much more open to being weird and being fun. And so there's a special magic with books that way. Like I have, I continue to have my mind blown by these writers. Like just like I cannot even conceive of what they do. Like Kyle, always thinking of ways to like push things forward with like his QR codes that lead to animated shorts, and his 20 like radiant black light issues. Like we tried it pushes us to try to do things that are a little different, innovate in the space, and I think comics allow you to do that. Like even the Dead Lucky, we did recipes at the back of every book that my girlfriend put together, Sandra, and people actually made them, which was amazing.
Oh, it's on my to-do list. My wife's on a business trip right now, but as soon as she's back, we are so excited. Because I think I told you in the emails, I have been dreaming about those media dumplings ever since they were first mentioned. Yeah. That's the one I'm the most excited to make.
Yeah, it's so fun, and it allows me to put such a personal piece of myself in the book, because I'm Hispanic, my girlfriend's Chinese American, and so being able, and we constantly are blending our cultures. It's really funny because her favorite cuisine is Mexican food and mine is Chinese. So like we constantly switch off, and it was such a special way to be able to do that. We also partnered with a band called Alice and did a theme song.
Oh, that song,
for the Dead Lucky. Like they created an original theme song.
It was very good.
Yeah, and so like being a part of that group has really pushed me and allowed me to really think about things that I could do that are fun and different in the comic that isn't I think as possible in other mediums to do it as simply, if that makes sense. Like if you think of something, you can do it, versus pitching a movie and trying to find the finances and trying to like get through like everything, all the red tape. It's such a special medium because you can tell really diverse stories in a relatively quick turnaround time, and I'm so fortunate to be able to do it.
Now, I've heard you say in other interviews that all of your experience behind the scenes has made it really easy for you to slot into the comic book landscape as a front-facing creator. But what has it been like to be a more behind-the-scenes person, and now, like, not only with taking over a brand like Power Rangers, but also with the Dead Lucky, having your own original character front and forward, and now you are the one at the top of the issue list?
It's been, I'm a person that things don't sink in right away, if that makes sense. It's not until I see it that I really understand it. So for me with the Dead Lucky, I remember Kyle was just like, "Hey, Image approved your book," and I'm like, "Great." He's like, "That's a big deal." I'm like, like it didn't sink in until I actually saw the book, and now it went for 12 issues, and I was so thankful that we were, because that was always my dream. Like, let's make it to 12 issues. It's a tiny book, nobody knows who I am. Like I'd be thrilled to just get 12 issues. But even now, people are still interested in the book. Like I have the trades whenever I go to cons, and like that's my best-selling book, and it's such a personal thing for me, because the book was based on my loosely based on my girlfriend's experiences and my relationship with her in terms of PTSD, and having to understand, or trying to understand, her PTSD, because it was something she would never really talk about. So to know that the thing that I like, that something so personal to me is actually people are interested in, is really, really special. Instead of just giving notes on somebody else's book, that's their story. I'm always going to try and honor that. That's one of my biggest goals as a producer is, if you're a producer and a writer, you have to know how to wear those different hats, right? You have to be able to know, like, if you're an executive who's producing somebody else, or you're an executive that's giving notes on somebody else's book, you cannot say like, this is how I would do it. You have to honor, they are the writer, this is their story, I'm just trying to make it better. So that it's my story is fun and different. I mean, I've been writing since I was like 12 when I started writing fan fiction for Star Trek. Like, I have been writing forever. So it's a natural process for me, but being an executive for all those years and reading other people's works who were much better than me and allowed me to elevate my own. And it was kind of like a boot camp in an education when I didn't have to go to school for, if that makes sense. Like, I have a master's in communication. I know how to write. I didn't take a lot of writing take a lot of classes for story. I learned all of it as an executive and from people that were better than me, from Brian Casantini, from Kyle Higgins, from all these amazing creators that I was learning structure and what makes a good story. And then I would learn on my own. So it was such a unique experience. And now that I'm here on the other side, I find myself also missing the other thing. I'm like, oh, I miss producing too. So like, it's such a different, I feel very greedy, but I'm so thankful because I know that writing is a profession that a lot of people really want to do. And I've been very fortunate to be able to make it my career. It's hard work, but it's so validating to be able to like look back and realize, I just got my first hardcover special edition Power Ranger book that's mine. Like, it never sinks in, if that makes sense. Like, it still feels like it's happening to somebody else. All I see is the work.
Well, I totally
need
understand
to figure out.
I mean, every day is just a single step, and then when you look back, you just see how far you've come, and that's when it all sinks in, at least in my experience. You know, you touched on some stuff that I was going to get into later in the interview, but I feel like it's appropriate right here because I do want to hear about what it's been like focusing on veterans issues within The Dead Lucky, and also because your girlfriend has over 12 years of experience in the military. What was it like working together on that? Because I've heard in other interviews that it's not necessarily, you're not telling her story. Bibiana is still her own character, but you wanted to make sure that you brought that authenticity to it by incorporating some elements that you've heard from her. You've interviewed other veterans to make sure that it wasn't a universal story, but rather you were giving something to relate to. But also, how did that bring you and your girlfriend closer, tackling these very personal, vulnerable subjects? It was always going to be a challenge. Like, one of the things I've been scared of, and I think it's because I started writing fan fiction when I was very, very young, I've always been scared of original stories. I always feel like, even when I was trying to be a writer when I was young, you know, I was this kid that like came from the inner city Los Angeles, and I went to USC, and I was so intimidated by all those film students because they had parents who were producers and directors, and they had ins, and like I was just a kid that had no idea what I was doing, you know. And so I always felt really intimidated by all of it. And so telling an original story, I always felt like I had nothing to say. And so as I went into my relationship with Sandra, I had never dated anybody in the military. I had never really thought about those experiences before. And then and I realized that she doesn't talk about it either. But it affects her profoundly. And her experience is profound. And like, as you know, we've been together a long time. And through that time, those like little experiences has been able to eke them out of her. And I've talked to people around her, and we've lost friends who were soldiers. And it became very clear to me that there is a problem right now where we take these young kids, you know, I was like 18-year-olds, 19, 20-year-olds. We put them in situations where they're forced to either do or experience or see incredibly traumatic things, and then don't really give them a way to come out of that safely. Then they come back and they're just expected to reintegrate and to act like they're okay and that they haven't changed because of that experience. And so you see them kind of living this mask, and you think they're okay because they've been taught to mask that okayness. And so I always like
as a creative, I have an ego of being like, well, I can put myself in anybody's shoes. I'm 1,000 different people. I'm not just myself. But she would always say to me, like, you don't get it. You're a civilian. You don't understand. And like in my little like egocentric, I was like, well, this is how I'm going to understand. Um, but it was my attempt to explore that mindset, to try and figure out where she's coming from. And in that process of me going to her and saying, hey, I want to do this book. I want to do it about PTSD. I would love to share this with you so that you like, I want the authentic experience, but I'd love to be able to understand a little more what you're thinking. Like, here's my perspective of being with you for this long, but what's your perspective? It actually allowed her to open up and talk to me about these things in ways that she had never done that before. In a way that felt safe. And now past that, like before, she might kill you if I told, like, I was talking about this, but like before, she had never really thought about disability or veterans benefits or anything like that because there was a stigma against it. And now she's a big proponent and a big supporter of like VA and like disability and like all these things that veteran benefits that they get, and advocating. She's working with a lawyer to advocate for that. And that wouldn't have happened, I feel like, if it wasn't for the experience of this book.
That's really awesome.
And it's so silly in retrospect because it's a book about a superhero. Like, it's a superhero book, but it means so much to me in that the survivor's remorse and the survivor's guilt and the trauma that BB experiences is real. It exists in people. Like, they're just expected to come back and act like nothing's changed, and they get overwhelmed by the tiniest little things, but they are not really allowed to share it because they've kind of been told that they have to keep it inside of themselves. And that, I think about that still. And like, people have written to me and have said, like, you know, this is one of the only books where I felt really seen and really understood. And it's not just military people; it's people who have been in accidents and they've been the only survivor. Like, it's super special to me in that way. Like, it's allowed me to really explore my girlfriend's trauma, allow her to try and heal in a safer way. And this is not a thing that ever goes away. But if we at least have the conversation, I feel like there'll be a lot more empathy to veterans and what they're going through. Instead of, where we have a president who just says, I like people winners.
Yeah.
Like, he just took away Veterans Day and called it Victory Day. Like, what the hell? So I'm not trying to make it political, but I'm just saying, like, we need to respect our veterans more. And that's what this book was about, in my opinion.
Oh, of course. I mean,
politics aside, like, it doesn't matter where they come from and what they believe in. This is what they experience.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, so many veterans do slip through the cracks whenever they do give up their own lives to make sure that us civilians are safe, and then they come home, they're strangers in a world that they left, and it sucks that we don't give them the proper respect.
It's the craziest things because it's literally like she can't decide where to eat sometimes. And she'll take hours trying to figure out where to eat. And it took me a long time to understand it until she told me about the scene in The Hurt Locker where the guy comes back and he's going grocery shopping with his wife and is told to get cereal, and then he just stands there in front of the wall of cereal and there's just too many choices. And they're used to just thinking about like getting one thing. So when you're like little stuff like that, or like not being able to sit with your back to a door, or like walking down the street and looking at a trash can. For us, it's a trash can, but for a soldier, it might be like a potential bomb. Like, there's just like it's just things you don't think about that they're forced to think about, and then all of a sudden you're told, no, don't worry about it anymore. Like, how do you deprogram from that? So
yeah, and it's really interesting that you're able to incorporate so much of that into Bibiana, because there are multiple superheroes and comic book characters that do have military backgrounds. I mean, obviously the most famous one is probably the Punisher, but with so many of them being written by civilians, there are those little details that don't make it in, and that's what makes The Dead Lucky feel like such a unique book, in my opinion, and that she is a very different flavor of character than we've gotten. You know, a lot of people they've used the military as a background, whereas I feel like the way that you've handled her made her feel like that background actually informed who she is, and those small things are fantastic. Another thing that man, you were hitting on so many questions I want to ask later, which is great. So let me bring one in, and that what is the best reaction that you've got from a fan in terms of Radiant Pink or The Dead Lucky? Has anything really stood out? Yes, you mentioned that people have written in saying that they felt seen and connected to a Bibiana, but is there any like one that you think would be that you reflect on a regular basis?
Yeah, I was speaking at a panel in Comic-Con in San Diego, and we were talking about trauma in comic books, and it was with Drea, who does Drea and Brian Ward, and they do the Arkham Files, where it's basically a podcast that explores the psychology of supervillains. And so I was on their panel, we were talking about trauma and all that stuff. And at the end of the panel, one of the attendees came up to me, and she's like, "It's all well and good that you're talking about this stuff, and you're talking about, suicide, and you're talking about the trauma that these soldiers face. But what are you going to do once they read your book and and they get triggered? Like, what is that? What is going to happen after that?"
That's a valid question.
And so that led us, absolutely. And so that led us to, at the back of every issue, there is a hotline page. That leads you to the veterans hotline. And hopefully, I'm hoping that that was at least something that we could do.
Sure.
That, hey, you read the book. If these issues resonate with you, like, there's help. And I remember that's always something that stuck with me. It's one of those things like, hey, it's all well and good. For you, it's a story, but people live with this.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do with it at the end of it?
And props on you for respecting that. Now, I do worry that maybe I made things a little too heavy right off the bat, and I am sorry about that. So let's switch over to a very different tone with Radiant Pink.
Yes.
It's interesting that the way that I described it in the video that I'm working on here is that it is a chaotic girly pop rom-com. How did you come up with the idea for that chaotic pace?
I mean, I co-wrote that with my friend Megan, but when I met her, she was chaos in a bottle. She was just everywhere all the time. I met her when we cast her as the Pink Ranger for Power Rangers Hyperforce, which is an RPG that we did. And we hit it off and we became friends, but she really embraced the identity of the Pink Ranger. And like, she's always been funny. She's always been kooky, and she was into all things pink. And so she's just, she was chaos in a bottle. And she had just come off this, again, like, I don't know why, I love dealing with super traumatic issues, but she had just come off of a breakup, and a couple of really bad breakups. And so we're just like, let's make this the kookiest, funniest, weirdest book in Radiant Black, and then let's make it about a girl who doesn't understand that she's in an abusive relationship. and that's how we approached it. It was just like, Eva was conceived by Kyle, and he co-wrote that book with Megan. So like, a lot of her is an inspiration in the character. I think she's an influencer. She's running 20,000 miles a minute, but she doesn't know how to slow down. And so we just wanted something a little different, something that only we could do for the Massiverse. And that was to make something a little kooky, a little crazy, but also really rooted in a very serious issue of like, hey, sometimes toxic relationships aren't the best thing for you. Like, you need to focus on you. And but we wanted to have fun with it, so we had talking cats, and we have like jelly rain and like all this crazy stuff. It was just a blast. It's always a blast to work with Megan. She and I work together really well. Like, that's not the only thing we co-wrote together. It was really fun. I'm glad we got to do 5 issues of just gay, crazy nerd stuff. And I got to name a cat Kitty Kitty and have him be like this homicidal slaver. Like, it was amazing.
Now, having been a professional influencer for, God, I think like 14, 15 years at this point, I am very critical and specific when it comes to the influencer characters. And some of them can be a bit over the top. Screwball from Marvel comes to mind. A lot of people find her to be annoying. I don't think that Eva gets there, which is great. So obviously, a lot of this was being informed by Megan's experience having also been a professional content creator. But how do you make sure that you don't go too overboard with the kookiness and make sure that she's more endearing rather as annoying?
I mean, a wish and a prayer, honestly. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I have such a bad gauge for that because even growing up, every character that people hated, I loved. I absolutely loved. I think with Eva, we just came from a really honest, sincere place with her. You know, like a lot of that humor is a mask. And so we're not doing it to make her a caricature, if that makes sense. Like, this is just what she does. This is who she is and how she has survived. And so you actually even see that in the comic where you see that over the top, boisterous, out loud thing, and then the camera shuts off and she kind of just goes.
When I read that, I had not felt more seen in a comic because this is an odd job and there's so much that people don't understand about the being on and then just you're running off of show energy, and then as soon as the camera's off, it's shut down. Like I feel psychotic because as soon as this interview ends, I'm gonna shut off the webcam and then my entire face is going to just go.
Yep, that's literally it, and it takes so much energy out of you, and so again, like it's we don't approach the character as a caricature. We approach the character as a person. This just happens to be who they are, and I think that really helps. And that's always been really important to me because I was trying to get into the entertainment industry since I graduated college, and it was so difficult for me because I didn't have the connections, because I didn't have a lot of different things, but it was also a very different time. And so for the longest time, all I was seen as was the color of my skin, and or being a woman. And so all they were interested in hearing from me was very stereotypical Latin stories. Well, I'm not, like, I can't say I speak for all the Latinos, you know? I mean, growing up, I was told I wasn't Latino enough. I wasn't Mexican enough. I grew up in the inner city, and I was obsessed with books and Jane Austen, and I worked at Pizza Hut. But at Pizza Hut, I remember they told me that they asked me if they thought I was white, and I looked at them like they were crazy because I'm like, I'm very obviously not. And they said, well, if you had said yes, we were going to beat you up. And it was only because of the way I talked. So my whole life, I feel like, has been a lot of, hey, I am this person, but that's just part of me. This is just who I happen to be. Even when I came out as gay, that was another identity that I had to like wear. And so a lot of the characters that I try to write are just people who happen to be something.
Of course.
They happen to be different. They at the end of the day, though, they're just them. And that's kind of how we approached, I think, Radiant Pink. She happens to be an influencer, but she really just is a girl that is so insecure about herself that she self-sabotages every relationship because she feels like she's not worth the validation to get out of it. And the same thing with the Dead Lucky. This is a soldier who has so much deep-seated trauma but wants so badly to repress it that she focuses on the needs of other people and then ends up accidentally ruining that because she can't focus on herself. So I think that's how I do it. It's all about making sure that the character is relatable, the character feels who they are, and then adding that craziness on top of it. And see if it works.
Well, I want to talk more about your view of diversity in media because with both Eva and Bibiana, they're both queer Latinas, and obviously people could say that you're writing what you know, but you did mention that growing up you felt like you were only seen as just a woman or just a Latina. But at the same time, it's important to be writing from that authenticity. Like the first time that I encountered the Dead Lucky was just seeing issue 1 at my local comic shop and falling in love with the design.
Yeah, French did an amazing job, and then we had an amazing artist who designed the book. It was great.
Yeah, the Calavera really stood out to me, and you don't see that. And incorporating these little bits of culture into it really makes the characters stand out. One, why is it important to have diverse characters in media? But also, how do you make sure that they aren't token characters? And also, do you ever worry about seeing yourself as a token writer because you've been told your entire life that you are this? How do you make sure that becomes a strength as opposed to just being a typecast writer?
It's something I've always been incredibly aware of. I kind of have had to embrace it. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've watched my entire life. I've watched series of straight white men and straight white women, but I've always been really drawn to series that embrace diversity in different ways. So even growing up, I was big into Star Trek. I was obsessed with Buffy. I was obsessed with Xena. So I've always been drawn to those characters that are a little different in some way. And I feel like sci-fi and fantasy are avenues for that, where it's coding for diversity. It doesn't mean that the character has to be Hispanic, but the character is a Slayer. Mm-hmm. There's diversity if you look for it. And it's just people coded it differently than they used to. And so for me, I worked with Power Rangers for 10 plus years. And at that time, I wasn't writing everything from the perspective of a gay Latina, I was writing characters that were Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And developing them that way. And I still write Power Rangers Prime, and I write Biker Mice from Mars. And again, they're mice.
Yeah, so, very different.
So they're just people at the end of it, and that's what I mean when I say I've always felt like it was such a frustrating experience for me where I was just like, hey, I don't feel like every time I walk into the room I'm a gay Latina. I just feel like weird ass Melissa.
You're a person.
I'm a person. I don't wear the gayness or the Latina-ness or the femaleness like a hat. Like it's informed who I am, and it always has. And so I consider that diversity of myself a strength, but it's never something I sit here and think about. It's just like, hey, if I could create those characters, like the Dead Lucky and Radiant Pink are literally the only two that have queer Latinas in the book. Everything else are either a licensed book or they're written from a different perspective. And so those just happen to be the ones that are the most personal because they're written on things that really affect me personally. But I always try to include diversity in every book I do. It's just what that diversity looks like is always meant to be a little different, because I think everybody is diverse in their own way. Everybody has that thing that makes them a little weird. It makes them a little different. And my goal has always been, even when I was an executive, is, hey, I'm not asking you to relate to a queer Latina. I'm asking you to relate to this person that has drama. Mm-hmm. When I was watching these shows growing up, I was looking for diversity. Like I was obsessed with Belana Torres because she was a Latina and she was a Klingon. And oh my God, that's so cool. That was somebody. But, I freaking loved Captain Picard because he was strong and because I wanted to be brave like him. And so it's like, I think that people are naturally primed to relate to these characters without having to see them as this person. Mm-hmm. I don't think it should be a barrier to entry to be like, oh, I can't relate to that person. She's a woman. You can, but you have to find the thing that they will relate to that helps them push beyond what they see. If that makes sense.
Total sense.
And so that's kind of how I go about it. I can't help how people see me. And I feel like, especially in this kind of tempestuous time, people are always gonna, I'm always gonna be seen as some people aren't going to look beyond who I am, but a lot of people do, and I'm so thankful for that. You know, I can't stop people from pigeonholing me, but I never come from the place of that's who I am, that's the only perspective I write. Mm-hmm. Because I've never been just that person. You know, I've never sat there and thought about that this is all I am. You know, at the end of the day, I was somebody obsessed with Xena. I was somebody obsessed with Legos. Like, I never thought about my culture or my sexual identity. Like, I didn't even know I was gay until like my mid-20s. Like, there are things I just didn't understand about myself. I think we're all just getting to know each other in a very weird, different way. And so for me, I just really enjoy the writing, and I kind of just have to make my peace with the rest of it. Like, I remember Ryan Parrott told me, "Hey, Melissa, I love you. You're amazing. Just know, because you're a woman, people are going to be a lot harder on you." And I kind of just have had to accept that and understand.
It's unfortunate.
You know, like, it is what it is, and I can't change who I am or how I was born. I mean, this is always going to be me. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to try and be as diverse as possible. And I'm going to try to tell the best stories I can. And just thankfully, I've found people that are willing to go along for the ride. And that makes me happy.
Sure. I'm actually in the process of moving to Mexico. And as I make my trips over there, I'm trying to learn more about what the comic industry is like, having that be my space. Is The Dead Lucky, does it have a Spanish translation? And if not, are there plans on getting one and getting it more of an international push?
I think they were just released in Italy. I think, let me check my notifications because I think I saw it. That is something that goes through Image. So yeah, actually Norma Editorial just did a Spanish version of The Dead Lucky.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was just released. So Volume 2 just came out.
So you were raised in Los Angeles, and obviously your experience is going to be from that of the diaspora of the Mexican American. Do you feel that this book is going to be received well in other countries where, you know, they're very much not America?
I think so. I hope so. The design. I mean, Federico Sabatini designed the suit, and we designed the character to be incredibly universal. We designed the look to be cool. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't know what a calavera is, it should still look like a character that's cool to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even if you don't live in San Francisco or you don't have Chinese, like a Chinese and a Mexican mom, you should still want to eat those buns, right? Like, so that's always the intention. It's like, hey, stories are told about the specificities are intentional, but the relatability of the character should be universal.
Yeah,
like there should be something you see in the character that, like, I get that. Even if you live in Mexico or Spain, like, I'm obsessed with Thai girl love dramas. Like, I don't live in Thailand, but I love them. And so that's kind of the same idea here. It's like, hey, even if this isn't necessarily your experience, you should find something, even if you just really love a cool story, that you should be able to find something to clamp onto. And I think for Latinos, the calavera and those kind of little moments are added bonuses. You know, like, I have had a lot of Latino creators come up to me or aspiring writers be like, this is amazing. I was so excited to see a Latina creator do something with a little bit of that culture. But I'm always really careful not to make it the entire book.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Man, this interview has just flown by. I realize that I don't have much time with you. It sucks because I have so many more questions I want to ask.
All right, let's rapid fire.
Well, I will be doing a disservice if I don't get to the viewer questions. So let me hit you with these, and then if I have any more that I have time for, we'll rapid fire.
And I'm always happy to come back to. Whenever.
Well, phenomenal, because one of the questions that I did have beforehand are there any more plans for The Dead Lucky? Are you going to be doing any other books inside of the Massiverse? And are there any other projects that you can talk about before we get into the viewer questions?
Yes, there's always BB is alive and well in the Massiverse. Mm-hmm. I think right now Kyle is just focusing on Radiant Black and Rogue Sun, justifiably so. Like, they're just making sure that the books are on track, and he's got a lot of different things going on right now, so I'm trying not to like to push him about BB.
Yeah.
But we do have plans. We've talked about them. I can't really see anything about that yet, but like BB is very much alive and well in the Massiverse. What I'm hoping that we can do is just keep pushing Dead Lucky and having more and more people find the book, so that eventually we can bring her back in her own series. There's also a character Pyre in the Dead Lucky that I really would love to explore
Pyre's
again.
cool.
So there's definitely, I have plans, I have thoughts. I'm trying not to like kill Kyle with them right now.
Sure.
Because he's very busy.
Oh yeah.
And in the meantime, obviously I'm writing Power Rangers Prime, which is ongoing. So please continue to support that book if you haven't. I'm having a blast writing it. I'm also writing the opening arc of Biker Mice from Mars for Oni, for the Nacelleverse, which is really fun. And that's coming out in June, I think next month. And so that'll be really fun to read. And then the rest I can't talk about. Oh, I can say I don't just write comic books, and I am working on a video game called War Torn that is coming out in early access next month.
Oh, very exciting.
So if you can wishlist that book, I've been writing on it, or wishlist that game. I've been writing it for the last several months, and it's really fun. And then there's other stuff coming. I can't really say, but I'm excited for them, and I hope you guys are going to be excited when you hear about it.
Hell yeah, we love a multi-talented queen. Let's hop into these viewer questions. So Astonished Blackbird wants to know about how your approach differed when it came to writing Radiant Pink, which is a character that Kyle created and that you were co-writing, and then with a character that's wholly owned and created by you with the Dead Lucky.
This is going to sound funny, but licensed characters are my happy place. Like
your fan fiction roots.
I guess. Yeah, because I have my fan fiction roots. I have zero problem with licensed characters. I feel like I understand them immediately. I can jump into their heads pretty easily. As long as I have like some sort of reference that tells me what they are and who they are, it's pretty easy for me to just live in the character. Mm-hmm. And so, and thankfully I was co-writing Radiant Pink with Megan, who is just zany and funny and like weird in the best possible way. Like she has come up with jokes that I could never even understand, and so it was relatively easy to do that with Radiant Pink. Like I had to be pushed a little to jump outside the box. Like she was just like acid rain. I'm like, what? Like jelly rain? Like it was hard to keep up sometimes, but we would literally sit in this room together and write it all out, and that was fun.
Niaba wants to know, what do you think about Radiant Pink being a major supporting character in Radiant Black now? It seems that she's going to be not necessarily a second protagonist, but she and Marsha are living together, so we're seeing a whole lot more Eva.
I mean, I think it's amazing. He told me he was going to kill her, so...
I didn't know about that? What? No! No!
No, I mean, it didn't happen, obviously.
Yeah!
but he told me she was going to die, so I'm actually really excited that she's still around.
Oh, man, because, your opportunity to write her again would just be gone.
Yeah, I mean, Ava is his character.
Of course.
He was free to do with as she pleases, but I obviously have a lot of love for her, and so, yes, I think the last time, like, we saw her, like, happy in Paris and love, and I'm like, all for it, do your thing.
So Lindsay North wants to know if we're going to see Radiant Pink in a solo title again. Obviously, it's not necessarily up to you because it is a character that Kyle created. But I mean, I guess in this case, would you have any ideas for doing another Pink solo? And also, this ties in with the question I wasn't able to ask earlier of were you able to say everything that you wanted to say in that 5-issue mini?
I mean, there's never everything. We left her ex-girlfriend, on like marooned on a planet. Which is really like harsh way to break up. So I would love to explore that character again and to go back to that character and see what the hell has happened. Because she's either become very zen or an incredible supervillain that is one that like wants to kill Eva, and I'm really curious to see where that goes. So yeah, I would love to go back to her and have different ideas, but for me, anytime I get an opportunity to work with Kyle, I get really happy about it. So he could give me like, hey, I want you to write a story about the janitor, and I'd be like, I'm down, let's go.
You feel like you got a good janitor story that you've been itching to tell?
I mean, he's got a closet. There's lots of toys in there. Let's play.
That's fair. Alex Maximoff 616, last viewer question, wants to know if you have any pets, and if you could show us a picture, that'd be great.
I do have pets. I do. Of course, none of them are here right now. I have 2 cats and 2 dogs.
Exciting. What are their names?
I have, so the little dog, his name is Gizmo, and she is...
That's a great dog name, by the way. That's perfect.
Yeah. She's my little precious baby. She is about 15 years old now.
Wow.
She's an old lady. This is her.
Oh, cute.
That's Gizmo. That's my friend John in the back. Ignore him.
Okay.
That's Gizmo. And then, yeah, she's little. She's so tiny. She's a baby.
Oh.
I don't know.
There we go.
And then we just adopted a few months ago a staffy mix named Nori.
You said Nori?
And he's amazing. Nori.
That's another good dog name.
So he actually is a rescue dog from China.
Oh, really?
And he he is a beautiful, cute dog.
Was he already in the States when you adopted, or did you?
Yes,
Okay.
We actually went into a pet store to get cat food, and my girlfriend loves Jack Russell Terriers.
Oh, same.
And so she asked if they had any Jack Russell Terriers because there was a rescue in there to have an adoption event, and they just happened. They always say no, but they just happened to say yes. And so this is Nori.
Oh.
He's adorable, and he's actually training to be my girlfriend's service dog.
Very nice.
So
Jack Russell make good service animals.
So hold on, she sent me another picture she wants you to see. That's him.
Cute.
He's a good boy. He came with the name No, and obviously that doesn't work for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So we changed it to Nori.
Okay. Yeah. And able to respond no problem to Nori?
No, he loves
Perfect.
it. He's such a good boy. And then we have 2 cats. One named Loki.
Classic cat name.
He's amazing, and I love him to death. See if I so, and then another one named Sylvie.
Oh, okay. Get both of them.
So Nori. Oh, actually, this is Nori with Loki.
Man, my ex had a cat, and my dog and her cat just could not get along. So it always warms my heart to see when the animals can coexist.
Yeah, Loki's just such a tabbies are a special breed. They're just so crazy. They're like dogs. And then we have but he's so social. Mm-hmm. And so we had 2 cats that one was Leo, who was a tabby too, and Leo, unfortunately, we lost to, I don't know if it was lung cancer or something, but it just progressed very fast. And so he left behind Spooky, who was his bonded companion, who was my cat that I had since she was a kitten. And she would cry all the time. And so we went and adopted Loki as a companion for her. We got another tabby for her. But I don't know if she just couldn't handle the loss, or she was gone fairly quickly.
That's unfortunate.
Like within 4 months. And so I have tattoos now of my, I don't know if you can see them.
A little bit, yeah.
So,
I love that.
Yeah, so those are, that's Leo, and that's Spooky, and then that's my Chihuahua, Alia, who I had him. It was like my first big baby.
Well, here's to hoping that it doesn't become a full band.
Right. And so we ended up adopting another cat named Sylvie, who is who is basically Loki's cat.
Yeah.
Which is why her name is Sylvie.
That's so cute.
We adopted her specifically for Loki. She loves him. She tolerates the rest of us, but she absolutely is like a big fan of him. And that was the whole point. I don't know why I keep going blurry. I'm going to fix this eventually.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I mean, we're almost done anyway, so hopefully it's not the end of the world. And yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that this is actually it flew by, and we're making great time here. So I guess last question I have for you would be: is there a question that you wish that you were asked more in interviews? Just want to make sure I'm doing my due diligence.
Nobody ever asked me about my voice recording.
Yeah, because like that was one of the first things I noticed whenever I was listening to your other interviews. Like, that is definitely someone that has had voiceover experience, and which makes sense because then I went and saw that you did some of the Power Rangers voice.
I'm kidding though. Like, I only did those last minute. We just ran out of money. Ran out of time, so I just jumped in the booth, and thankfully it was passable. Like, we did okay, but it's still one of those things. Like, haha, I got to be a video game character. That was fun. It's not my regular career.
But do you have voiceover experience?
Um, no, I mean, I voice directed enough people, and I'm a Leo, so I'm dramatic by nature. Like I've always loved acting. It was never something I wanted to do myself professionally, but I've always had an affinity for it, and I think that just helped. I don't know. And I'm around very talented people, and I just hope sometimes that it like by osmosis I can get a little bit of a voice.
Well, hopefully that happens. Like, if you ever get a chance to come back down to Dallas, I mean, Crunchyroll is based here, so pretty much most major anime voice actors are Dallas locals.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. I love. I know a lot because I did anime stuff before when I was also doing Power Rangers, which people actually absolutely probably hate me for because I did Glitter Force and people do not like Glitter Force. I got to meet so many amazing actors, and like our lead actress was Laura Bailey.
Very familiar with the work.
And she's incredible. And we had like Debbie Mary, like incredible voice actors in the Glitter Force cast. Keith Silverstein, and so watching them work, like I could never do what they do. They are so freaking talented.
I highly no, you're being hard on yourself because I think you do have a natural voice for voiceover.
Thank you. I try.
Listen, if you decide to like go into ASMR, that could be another one of your big talents. I genuinely think you can, with all of your many tools in the box, I think you could probably do anything that you want.
Oh, I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
No problem.
That makes me happy. I'm going to go on with my day and not be sad that I'm like really late on my deadlines.
Well, and speaking of that, I want to make sure that I'm not keeping you longer than we had budgeted. So where can people find you?
So I am on, just go to my Instagram, Misty _ Flores, and that's usually where I post most of my work stuff. I've tried not to be on X as much, but I'm still there. And that's also Misty _ Flores, and then Blue Sky as well. And then I have a website called mistyflores.com that takes you to everything. So the one I'm not really active on is Facebook.
You're not missing
because
much.
That's mostly from my family. Yeah, but I notice people still try to add me,
Sure.
and I'm just like, hey, I don't add you back because unless you're like my cousin in Mexico, there's no point.
That's totally fair. Well, I won't keep you from those deadlines and your other meetings. So thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me. This has been really educational, and I'm excited to work more of this into my Massiverse deep dive.
Amazing. Well, I hope you very much. Thanks for taking the time, and I'm excited to see what else the guys tell you.
Of course. Thank you very much. You have a good one.